have a quorum. The vice chair just showed up, and I would like to start with our new member. Would you please introduce yourself, sir?
Hello, my name is Steve Gutierrez, and I am a board member for Laredo Against Drunk Driving, which was my segue into the board. And I'm eager for this opportunity and to share some of the experiences that I've had with our organization and see how I can be of help to this organization and vice versa.
Thank you. Welcome. We have minutes passed out to the board. They were emailed to us, so everyone should have read them already. I need a motion to accept.
Madam Chair, someone needs a hard copy. We do have some extra hard copies.
There's some right here.
A second.
Okay. Arnold first?
Yes.
And what do you say? Minutes have been approved. Are there any public comments? Anybody sign up?
Madam Chair, no one signed up.
Then we go on directly to what we needed to do today, which is a presentation and possible action with Representative from Judge Tano Tijerina's office to discuss a detox center and any related matter to that. Hello.
Well, I happen to know, obviously, Sheriff, we come from the county, and I went to school with Jesse, and I know Mr. Gonzalez from way back, and I'm glad to see some of the new faces that I haven't met before, and Mr. Sanchez. I am the Risk Management Administrator for Webb County. I've been there for now 3 months.
No.
I was retired, just like yourself, but not that I'm aggrandizing anything, but back in 1988, 1990, I was involved in a research project with Washington under a NIDA grant. So we did studies on HIV and substance abuse as related to AIDS, seroprevalency rates, etc. So I am aware of the need for a detox center. Also, I've talked to Molly Higgins, attorney from the Webb County, and she also sees the need for a detox center because of CPS cases she handles. So, and of course, the sheriff has what he has to deal with on a daily basis. So there is a demonstrated heavy need for a detox center. I was aware of BASTA way back in the old days. That was methadone treatment for heroin substance abuse. I know that no longer exists.
But there is another.
There's a methadone program.
There is a methadone program. Okay, I'm gonna have a picture there. But no, there's a strong need from the community and from Webb County. I know the judge, technology, also the mental health services. Sometimes it's related with the addiction.
Definitely.
So, the judge fully supports the program.
Okay.
And see what we can do, right, as a part of the community.
That's what we need. We need backing because we can recommend, but we don't know what budget we have, if we'll have stakeholders, if we'll have partners, if we'll have anyone to come along and help us actually put this into effect, have it come to fruition, which is what we're looking forward to. So thank you very much. And we continue with the Detox Center with Jesse Hernandez.
How are you? I appreciate the invite here. I've gotten the opportunity over the years to know many of you all. And over the years, one of my passions has been really help others help themselves. Now, I guess my understanding was to provide the committee with a bit of historical perspective as to where we were, where we were going, some of the different things that have happened over the last number of years. So, you start out at the very beginning, and this is something that many of us in this room have been a history, part of the history, including the staff that came in, including Nally, who was back at Laredo State Center back then. The Laredo State Center at one point in time had all the substance use services, including what you were talking about last, the methadone clinic, including residential services for adolescents, including prevention services, and very importantly, they had the peer unit, which was a medical detox unit. Okay, and so that was critical, a critical component. it was never enough. I think, historically we've always been shorted on money. But we had a good program there. The State Center had a good program. I would say, when I say we, the State Center had a good program. I want to say in about 1993 or so, the state decided to break off the different entities from the Laredo State Center and give them to nonprofits to run, which was a better fit. And so that's where you have SCAN. They took over residential piece for adolescents, and over the years they've expanded, and they provided great many services to children, adolescents, and adults. And they have really the only adult residential program I know, including for males and for females, and they also do the adolescents. So they took that seed and improved. The Deer unit was moved, the detox movement was moved to AMA. And they ended up not doing a medical detox, they did what was a social detox. Okay, so in other words, we had the medical detox at Laredo State Center where we had the doctors and the nurses and around the clock and medication given. They went ahead and did a social detox. And they ran it for a number of years, but I want to say around 2003 or so, they forgot to turn in the grant for the monies, and they only could run it for one more year afterwards, and it closed. So I would want to say since about 2004, and anyone from SCAN can correct me, but since about 2004, since about that time, we haven't had a detox center here in Laredo, and we've had to rely just on residential services. However, the problem is that the population that we see meet the American Society of Addiction Medicine criteria for more higher levels of care. So the clients that we see now in outpatient programs are clients that really need to be in detox and residential, and it's overwhelming our outpatient problems because we do not have places to send them. So, as we're moving along and we're wanting to figure out how to work this out, Judge Hale and I, about 10 years ago, we were discussing what opportunities there might be, because in the drug court, that Heath operates, about 25% of the population are always IV drug users. Right? This year, this last cycle, 3-year cycle, 40% were alcoholics because they do all of the felony DWIs. So we saw a heavy dose of alcoholics, a lot of heroin addicts. A lot of them need detox, and where do you end up sending them? And unfortunately, they go to Sheriff Cueva, and that's a very dangerous place to send them if they're not getting the care. So back maybe about 9 or 10 years ago, there was a discussion about the possibility of opening up a triage detox center, and there was 2 different groups involved, and I think the last group that it kind of went ahead and formulated a plan was West Care, because they had taken over the homeless grant that Staccato had when they folded. So they put up a proposal, and the concept was, why don't we have an empty building? There's an empty building at the old juvenile probation department. Let's go ahead and do that. And so they asked me just to kind of look around and say, well, what would you need to have a medical detox, right? I gave them some numbers with different populations, the county commissioners, right? And I said, this is what you would take, because you're going to need at least 4 full-time LVNs, 3 part-time LVNs, 1 director of nursing, a doctor that will do the detox, and someone to sub for him. And Isela can tell you that you don't make money on detox. You're lucky if you break even. But at that time, I said, this is how much it'll take just to run it the first year, because the idea was to get it accredited, right? We wanted to, we said we need a year, and then we can look for funding. And the big group of people that were in it were the hospitals. We started having meetings. Henry was involved in setting up those meetings. We had Richard Raymond involved in setting up the meetings, and we got together. And the city was involved. The county was involved. The idea is the county was going to put some money into the facility to kind of renovate it. And they eventually voted, the county commissioners voted $500,000, which they eventually used, but not for the detox. They used it for the treatment center. So that's where the treatment center is located, but they didn't use it for that building. And everything kind of fell apart. But the ones that really wanted to buy in were the hospitals. The hospitals were willing to put in whatever needed to get it done, because they're getting overwhelmed in their emergency rooms. So at that point in time, we were all seemed to be on the same place, but everything just kind of fell apart. Next thing I heard, Dr. Gonzalez and I have been working together the last 4 years. We've been talking more and more about this. And, I heard that there was a recent push, not only from the county commissioners, but the city of Laredo especially, to come back and do something. Now, I'm going to say that the big cost is going to be personnel. It's always personnel, but you have some options. I mean, for example, I guess Pete's here because one of the options is, let's go into the old juvenile probation department where the Webb County Treatment Center is, where we have all the LTCs and all and let's just go ahead and put it adjacent to there. But when I did all the original measurements, I said, well, you're going to have to cut down a lot of these concrete walls to make it adaptable. And the cost may be more than what it was 9 or 10 years ago. And so, and things are more expensive. The other option, Isela knows this one better because, she has built places. The other thing is to have someone build a place to suit, and then go from there, and then you have to have the money to run the place until we find ways. But there's not money for detox. You're not going to find it. It has to be a community effort, and that's where it has to be continuous effort from the city, from the county, from the hospitals to provide this, because in the end it will save a lot of money. And there's ways that whoever decides whoever puts in the best proposal and decides to run it, they're going to find ways to make some money to keep it afloat through insurances, through different forms of pay. But it is a rather expensive proposal. Just if you look at just the number of nurses, and I know even from what I was looking at the budget that I gave 10 years ago, nurses aren't getting paid what they got 10 years ago. So, and you have to compete with the hospitals, Board of Region, MHMR, and ideally you want to have psych nurses. So you have different options. I don't know how viable the option is anymore of doing it on where Judge Hale had originally talked about. Because I don't know how expensive it'd be. I would think that it's probably more viable to just build a building that's suited. That would be what I would think would be the best. And then understanding that this is something that is better for everybody to work together, all the nonprofits, all the hospitals, the city and the county. And if this is going to happen, when things, we got so close, and then everybody just backed out. Okay, well, there's a crisis here in the county. We have to patch up, so there's a crisis here in the city. We don't have the money, and then everything drops. But the reality is that we have a lot of people dying every single day, and we've always had an opiate crisis. You know, back even when I was talking to Henry about 2 weeks ago, and he says, remember, you all had the only adolescent detox. This is a scam, right? They had the only adolescent detox that the state had ever had. And back then, we were running the facility, based on what I remember, with 90% of our clients that went into the detox and came into the residential program scan, they were all IV heroin users. These were kids that were IV heroin users as young as 12 who had hepatitis C, who had hepatitis B. Okay, and so this is a problem that's existed for a long time. And over the years, the heroin addicts have gotten younger and younger, and over the years, there's different problems. We see it in the different agencies, whether it's filler, whether it's scan. You see younger and younger kids coming in for different issues, not only substance use, but the issues that put them at high risk. This isn't really a community effort. I'm just here to provide you history. I don't have any
Solutions.
You all are the ones that have solutions. I'm glad to be invited. I'm always be happy to provide you my thoughts. But I think there's many people many agencies that are capable of doing this here. Yeah. And I think if everybody works together, then we're going to find a solution that's beneficial. You know, there have been some private companies that have come in. I believe one that I know that tried to set up at the hospital, and within a year they failed. And it was the same problem that when I was at SCAN we had, which is that people a lot of times think it's better to get services somewhere else, or they're a little apprehensive about coming into Laredo because of cultural issues. It got to the point, in order to make sure that the program at SCAN, the detox, was completely full at all times, so that we could draw down the money that we had to take trips to the house 2 times a week to fill up the beds. When I would tell the school, the school administrator said, I could go to one of your schools and pick up all these people and fill up the beds. But they had a policy not to refer. So there was just a lot of issues that were going on. No one was working together. And this is just an opportunity for everybody to come together and do something good for the community. And I've been in the field over 30 years. I'm 61 years old. It is what it is. This is, as I ride off in the sunset, I'm working with a lot of new counselors that I'm training to hopefully that they will pick up where, people like Louise and I first started many years ago, 30 years ago, Louise Flores and I. And my wife, by the way, who is still very active in doing this. But if you all need anything, feel free to call me or let me know. Anyone from anybody. I mean,
We're
I'm
going to
always
have you
there.
on speed dial.
Feel free. I'd be happy to do whatever I can. This is a very important community project.
Madam Chair, if I may, for the benefit of Councilmember Viedma, Councilmember, the commission has been together for 8 months and really has done a lot of commitment on their part, asking the question, what do we have? What do we need? They invited the stakeholders and the providers, but you can count on your hand. SCAN, West Care, AMA, South Texas Behavioral Health, Pillar. We don't have overwhelmingly. And then there's gaps in the process of care. But we're bringing them to here because they're the ones who are seeing the problem. On the health side and the public health concern, it is an emergency. Jesse's absolutely correct. We gave him data, and I think the commission has the data. Over the last 5 years, we've had 190 overdose deaths. For our community and our population, that comes out to about 12 to 15 a year. We shouldn't, that's the disparity. Those 190, 165 were all heroin. What was certainly daunting to me in reviewing the data and compiling from death certificates is that it's not only heroin. Some of them are using synthetic opioids, fentanyl, but some of them are mixing, not some of them, overwhelmingly, they're mixing, on the one hand, an opioid, heroin, and cocaine. And they're both of the opposites, and alcohol. And so they also run the risk of other co-infections, hepatitis C, hepatitis B, HIV, other STIs as well. So the commission, you all have chosen a good group. We do have the newest member who is the designee of Councilman Gonzalez, Mr. Gutierrez, who joined the group, where they are talking to people providing the service, the experts, and finding out what do we need, which was one of the reasons why Jesse was here. But the county, the judge was invited to, because it's going to take all of us.
Yes.
Regardless of how we proceed with recommendations of the commission to you all, it's going to take all of us at the table to look at what resources we have, how do we go from here, what is needed. And a survey was done with the providers, asking them that same question: what do you provide? What do you think we need? Where do we go from here? And the commission members were the ones who commissioned that survey. And one of the things they've done, and Mr. Osama's taken the lead with the chair in developing a directory, updating a directory that SCAN had originally put together, one of the stakeholders, and it was updated. One of the things we found, even among the providers and definitely the users, they didn't know what everybody was doing. And so one of the tasks that the commission is taking is to really disseminate that information. And part of the reason why we invited the sheriff then is to look from the law enforcement side. The commission members heard from LPD. Now from the sheriffs, what are the issues they're seeing? What are their thoughts on the party? What is needed? And I think you'll hear in preliminary discussions that it's an additional serious problem.
Could I mention one thing that I forgot that you mentioned? The model that I'm talking about a medical detox, because the social detox model won't work with a number of alcoholics we have. It's too dangerous to put an alcoholic in a social detox program. And so we have to be thinking along medical detox, about maybe having a standalone facility that's built to our needs with everybody putting in, because that's where you're having problems. You're having people coming in with all these issues. And then we have, like we've seen, with a co-location project that we had for the city, we're seeing people try occurring conditions, which means that we had not only mental health issues and substance use issues, but we had people that actually had active HIV. So you're dealing with all those issues, and we're seeing a lot of IV in our community because of HIV, because of IV drug use. And so we have all of these issues going on, and this is a perfect time to come up with a solution, as there's been newer funding and different things coming on with the nonprofit world. I see it also in my private practice. I see 48 clients a week. 10% of my cases are pro bono, it is overwhelming. A lot of the clients that I have more than likely could be in a residential program, but they're afraid to go. They don't want to go, and so I have to modify the treatment plans in one way or another.
It's also a matter of education.
Well, there's a lot of education needs to be done, and we have to look at the realities too. My primary caseload is women. 60% of my cases are women that come in for individual marital and family counseling. They come in depressed, anxious, underlying that there's a trauma, because the reality is 1 in 4 women sexual abuses children, 1 in 6 males sexual abuse. And I'm sure that's the same thing that happens when you get to agency. The same thing we saw at Cedar when I was a consultant there. Same thing we saw at SCAN. There's so many women that need the services, and we have to do something that we don't forget them. We're talking about detox, and we're seeing a lot of men need this, but my God, we have to make sure that there's a sufficient place for the women, because we have a lot of women that we see in the drug court program. We saw a lot of women in the co-location project that needed help, and so we have to consider, how are we going to treat the women? How are you going to house them? Because that can be very problematic. Yeah. So you might be looking at, a different site, or but that's something that the community can decide. But I just want to make sure that the women are not forgotten here.
Madam Chair, if I may. Yes. Well, first of all, I want to thank you all for your time, because this is a very important issue for our whole city, and I recognize a lot of faces like Jesse was just mentioning. I worked under Jesse back in 1989. So we were in a residential facility for chronic inhaling abusers, and work with MHMR, and so this is something that, of course, the problems continue, but even to me, I've been out of the field for so long that talking recently to Isela, she was, praising me of a lot of changes of modalities of treatment, and so I think that what you are doing is a great basis for us to know what do we have, make sure that we're not duplicating, or if there's any gaps, that all the agencies could be more aligned, so that we can get all those resources and funding, because ultimately the problem is funding, right? And I've had the conversations with Judge Hale about that facility, so hearing now from Jesse that it might not work. I've also had meetings with Mr. Ceballos. There's an area adjacent to Border Region that belongs to the Housing Authority, where we were looking at perhaps a triage and what does he call it, like wet detox or something. I forget the name for that, but that might be a possibility, and I guess if we can identify, the priorities or the gaps, or if there's other modalities like Isabella, what you were mentioning to me, that might be a little bit of not so much of a financial burden in some of the ways that the facility personnel can be structured. I don't know about the county. I know that there's some funds for indigency medical treatment, but I have no idea, like percentage-wise or what have you. On my part, and I also spoke to the mayor before coming to the appointments. He can't come, but you have our full commitment to try to see that we can prioritize and work in conjunction. I've been working with Sheriff and Jail Commander as well in this issue. We've identified, several, problems that we're having, gaps also in the community, and it's difficult right now as far as what they have to endure. I had a client, you were there also?
Yes.
About 2 weeks ago, I had a client that I just happened to pass by my office on the weekend, and there were people outside. And when I went to visit the young man in jail, his eyes were all over. So I didn't know if it was K2 or he had just gone to Puerto Region that week for perhaps starting of schizophrenia, and all these things, come together with the dual diagnosis. So I think those two issues are very important, because currently we also have our Laredo police officers having to go very much babysit at LMC until they're able to get a bed. And just this last week they said instead of 3 days, now it's like a 14-day week. We cannot afford to have our police officers there, so it's an emergency, I think, situation at this point that we need the funding to come down. We can't afford, we're no longer a we can't afford to be sending people outside, but at the same time, if we're underutilizing some of the services, like Isabella was mentioning to me, sometimes we don't have people, we have to bring from out of town, then maybe it's part of our, and I'm glad to see here Mr. Thompson with the prosecution, with the probation officer, are we referring, and sometimes people have ideas from the past, like, oh no, it's because Fulanito went there and it didn't work, so no, I want him out of town because maybe this didn't work for my family. But I think the more positive results that we have, that's what we need to promote, so that they know that here we have the only facility for adolescent treatment, and so that we ourselves become more familiarized with it, and like you were mentioning, educating everybody, so that we can do the best with the resources, and of course work together. And thank you very much for your time, because this is a very a big priority for our community.
And I could actually say, as I go, and Paul, you and I have been there in those staffings where we at the drug court, where we're making recommendations, because practically everybody comes in needs residential services. I can guarantee you that Isela at SCAN, they could have a program. What do you have? 15 beds, Naki?
No, we're licensed for 26.
26.
We went back down to 16 because we didn't have any referrals.
So they could actually have 3 or 4 times the size, because that's how many people we refer every week out of town. So they could have a huge program, but we have to send them out of town. And you know, they're always full. Like every time we were making referrals with you have so many people from even our waiting list. So you know, they could have a huge facility, and because we need it.
So you're referring out of town?
We do
still seeing funding is not showing the stats, and we need to try to.
Yeah, I mean, these are clients that could be, depending on the type of funding they have. They're clients from Laredo, but we have to send them out of town, right? And the need could be met. So the idea really is working with whatever providers are here in town, whether it is Scan or Pillar, or a combination of all of them, working together to provide the services. Because you know, we have enough clients coming in. As I was doing supervision today, and I was looking at the referrals coming in, and I'll sign up. So with this one, I said, you all need to recommend residential treatment for this client. They're going to need detox. And so as I'm training the new counselors, you know, you're seeing a lot of these things, and Paul and I saw it a lot. You know, and so, you know, there's plenty of clients here that could fill up beds more than we know.
All right, thank you. And thank you. Sheriff, I know, I'm sorry you're in a hurry.
That's okay.
But we need information.
Actually, I'm going to go see Richard Raymond. I'm going to get some funding for this too.
Good, wonderful.
But it's a state issue, so.
Yes, that's very good. Okay, I know between you and your jail head, tell us all the stories.
Okay.
Well, not all.
Well, first of all, I'm Sheriff Cuellar for the record. This is Commander Ponce Trevino, Jail Division. And Jimmy Magaña, he's also the captain, or he is the captain. And I also have Ms. Levin, she's with the mental health coordinator, so she handles a lot of our mental health. Okay, all of them. Every time she steps out, there's a crisis, so you can imagine. Where can I start? You know, we have a big problem. We really do. Recently we had, and I won't mention the names because of litigation, but recently we had 2 inmates die on us. Okay, and these inmates are exactly what you said. You know, drug addicts. You know, they have TB, tuberculosis. They're rotten through the inside, and they happen to, you know, step into our jail. So once they do that, then we have a big liability, you know, in trying to, you know, give them all the medical attention, everything that we can. So it's a big problem that we have. You know, that's what I can talk about instead of that. You know, the solution is getting the facility and getting funding. That's the solution. But you know, we have a big problem because of I was just confirmed just now, trying to get my numbers correct, but about 85-90% of the people that step into our jail have a mental or drug problem. You know, so you can imagine, you know, that's what we deal with. Right now we have, in observation, in Detox, we have about 8. At one given time, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys, they're there every day, I'm not. So we have 8 that are in observation. That means that they're detoxing. I mean, they're there. You know, that's, you know, the first 3 or 4 days are the most dangerous, as you all know that. And to us, it's a big liability, you know, in trying to keep them safe and trying to keep them from dying on us. You know, we're not a hospital. You know, we're a holding facility, you know, until they reach their court date, until they do their job over there, and then we send them off, you know. But meanwhile, we may keep them there for a year. Sometimes when they're facing capital murder and murder, sometimes we keep them a little bit longer because of the state and the attorneys trying to get the court date, you know, straightened out as far as, you know, get ready for court. But, you know, we have a big issue with that. It's something that we have always struggled with. You know, they've always said that the sheriff, the most important job that he has, you know, is running the jail. That's where we have more problems. Any jail, so you can think about it. Any jail in the state of Texas, the jail is the biggest problem that a sheriff has. Of course, we have other responsibilities that we have to deal with, but that one brings a lot of problems because of liability. You know, someone dies on us, they say the sheriff didn't take care of them. You know, when you know that they're detoxing, they're dying on us, they're sick, and then when they don't tell us that they have an illness, because we ask them, that's common practice. We ask them what the problems is, what kind of medical problems they have. If they don't tell you, well, then how are you going to know? So, you know, that's what happens. So it's a very, very serious situation that we have, and you know that we can attest to that. I don't know if my commander wants to say a few words, something that I didn't cover, Commander.
It's kind of ironic this happened because just on Monday we were running back and forth all weekend on with some of these issues, and I stepped into the sheriff's office and I was telling him we have an epidemic going on here. I mean, I got here 14 years ago when it wasn't like this. It wasn't like this. The drugs are becoming more potent. And like the sheriff said, these inmates come in and they don't tell us what their health issues is. So detox in itself, it's a violent stage. The body goes through a lot. And these guys are playing Russian roulette. They're just hoping they can get through it this time. Some of them don't. They die on us. And it's something that we can't prevent. And one, we need a new facility. We tried that. But we need something to deter them, something to stop this. You know, and I think we're headed in the right direction with everybody sitting here, but it does get bad there. We have our war stories, and the captain can tell you some of the few that we had.
Oh, a lot of war stories. That's what the commander says. I mean, every day when I walk into the jail, the first thing I do before I grab my cup of coffee, I go straight to medical. What's going on? Who do I got sick? Who do I need to worry about? And like the commander says, the first 3 days are the most critical days. They're going through that detox. They're playing Russian roulette, and like what you're saying, like, they don't tell us what they have, and they want to. The first thing what they don't want is be in the detox, because if they're in detox, we got to keep them downstairs in the booking area for at least 7 days, right off. But some of them don't want to be there, and they say, "No, I'm okay, I can handle it." They go upstairs. By the third, fourth day, they're going to start into seizures. They got downstairs, and some of them fall and their body, they can't handle it. They'll fall and they'll hit their head, and that's when we have to call the army. This week alone, I believe it was called 4 times to the jail.
But I want everybody to understand that you know, we do ask them if they're, you know, what they, you know, I want to make sure that I clear that up, because I mean we're you know, we have to ask them by law, is there anything wrong with you? What kind of illness do you have? They choose not to tell us.
We send them for medical clearances, but you gotta understand, when they come in, they're hot. So everything's fine, everything's calm. It's not till that second or third day that, you know, they start reacting, they start going through seizures, you know, the diarrhea and all that, throwing up. And by that time, they're ours. We're responsible for them.
Laredo, Laredo's unique, just like any other border city. Heroin is very potent. It's it doesn't get break down like it does in other cities. You know, by the time it gets to Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, they what we call slang, they step on it. In other words, they break it down to make it less potent, so they can be able to shoot more and sell more. So Laredo, you know, the heroin that they're using is very potent, and it's very deadly. We've had inmates, correct me, about a week ago, where we released one, and a few days later, he died. You know, because they go out there and they inject, and they die on us, or they die out there in their community. That's one of the statistics that you said. So, you know, I mean, it's just the way it is. You know, we play it, you know, every day, you know, because of, you know, they come in, and if we're able to save their life, they go out, and then they die on us out there.
And may I say also, I mean, I know that one of you mentioned about them overdoses. Some of them, they go through a detox and they make it, and they get out of jail. I mean, they go out there and they're used to using the same amount of drug they were using when they were hooked on it. And they go out there and they try it again, and that's when overdoses happen.
That's where you have I think it's like 333% chance of someone after they even get out of residential program that they can overdose. Now, the one thing that wasn't mentioned is, and we've been talking about it all year, was the fentanyl. I've had clients that fentanyl people, you know, are using that, and we have that situation. You're mentioning, you're just talking about the heroin addicts. You know, they're not going to die from a withdrawal for heroin, but an alcoholic will die.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a whole different story because you're in the same situation. You're looking at them and saying, okay, they might be okay, but you know, within 12 hours, you're in a life-threatening situation.
Yeah.
The idea back 9-10 years ago was to do a triage detox where instead of the police having to go take them to the hospital, they would take them to the triage unit, and they would be triaged, and those that could be released after some time would be released, and the ones that needed detox would be brought in. Because the police were spending so much time, even back then, at the hospital. This way they had a set building or set site with doctors and, you know, a medical unit. They could be, and that's how come we were talking about getting a JCO accredited, that they would do the triage, those that would be stabilized, it could be stabilized and eventually let go, and with doctor's orders, and then the ones that needed detox could be brought in. And we figured, okay, we'll have 16 beds. That's what we looked at. That's eventually what the county said that they would be willing to support at that time. 16 beds, and we multiplied that by X amount. We came up to whatever the 16 times 52 is, right? And we thought we could maybe see this many people, but some of them are going to be return people, so we have to find out ways of treating them. But yes, I guess I'm very concerned about the alcoholics, especially when we saw the spike in DWI cases in this last 3-year cycle that we had the drug program, where all of a sudden, we're seeing, 42% of our clients with alcohol use disorder, moderate or severe, and those are people that we would pick up from jail.
Yeah.
Right, drug in the jail. So, those are really serious cases. I'm worried about that.
Yes, and we are talking also about alcohol.
Yeah.
They're really.
So that's rough. That's rough.
Okay, well, thank you, and thank you for offering to speak to
Sure.
our representative, and of course your brother could help in the matter. And we appreciate all of your information, and we will be, of course, put you on speed dial, and when you
Sure.
so that whenever we need to put this all together, we need you all.
Sure.
You're the ones in the front line, right?
Okay. Madam Chair, before the sheriff leaves, one of the questions you all had in past meetings was, what kind of treatment services are there while they're in jail? And we heard stories that there was no one coming in, and you expressed it. Then we found out that I think SCAN does have some programs.
They're there every day.
Has some programs.
Yeah.
We wanted to hear from you. Is it enough? We need more. Is it working?
I'll let the commander handle that, but I know that we have SCAN every day. They're there every day. Matter of fact, when I walk in, I see someone different. I'm like, who's that? So it's people from SCAN. So yes, we do have something going every day. We have our doctors. We have
2 mental health specialists.
We have telemedicine
that we communicate
Yeah, we
with.
communicate with Board of Region just about every day.
Well, she was there like 4 or 5 months, and she said she didn't see anyone. So
Well, we're probably going to say that.
they
Believe me,
will.
they complain, and they have the right to complain.
Yeah.
And they complain not to us; they complain straight to the commission.
To the parents.
So then to the jail commission, because we go under them, and then these guys have to do an investigation to find out what happened. And sure enough, I'm like, wait a minute, you mean to tell me that these people didn't get treatment? So as soon as they go, they're like, no, they got treatment. Here's all the records, because we keep all the records on it.
Yeah,
But-
she was one of them detoxing in there.
But a lot of times, see, they don't tell us. Then we don't know.
Mhm.
We don't know.
Do they have to request it, for voluntary, or when you identify they were arrested with possession, therefore,
No,
or if
it's all voluntary. We can't force anybody to go to detox by the standard. We can't. So they have to volunteer for it, and a lot of them don't want to go through it. So they want to be housed with everybody else, so they want to get out there, so they refuse to tell us.
And after the detox, like in some of the cases, sometimes it's time served, and they might be there 4 or 6 months. is there some way to make it part of the programming that they still get the clasecitas instead of just?
That would be on the court level, maybe when the judge gives a court order, for those repeat offenders to say, hey, you're going to be released, but these are the conditions. I know in Nueces County they do that. They order certain classes in certain places. The judge will order as a condition of probation, as a condition of the sentence. So that would be, with the judges.
Classes within, while they're there?
Yes, we're working on something to have classes for them while they're there.
Yeah.
But as far as right now, they go through detox. We have our medical personnel, and then the mental health specialists that see them, and that's all we got. That's all the facility lends itself for.
If I may interject, Peter, along with Judge Hugo Martinez and the sheriff as
I
well.
was fixing to say that.
I would like for him to come speak at the next meeting to talk about that project that we're rolling out.
Yes, actually, that's what I was going to say. We're working on that.
That was a good one.
And it's going to be good because they are going to get treatment, they are going to get educated, as you said, and so we can be able to count for that. I want to put them to work. Actually, that's what I want to do.
Yeah, they should.
Put them to work. Wash cars. Paint the fences. Do everything.
Trash, whatever.
Everything. That way they get educated at the same time, not only work but do something for
The
themselves.
project is going to include vocational training.
Yeah.
Vocational training. She's in Henderson, Texas right now, and she'll be out in probably December. And that's my worry. I'm obviously concerned about detox, and we need detox.
Of course.
But when a parent like myself has had a recurring issue with their child, 12 times going back, and she started when she's 16 and she's 24. So we need to find the money to create detoxes, rehabs, and lockdown facilities, because it's a nice idea that to say, well, they have to want to. Unfortunately, I've had people that became clean after they went to jail, and jail's not a detox, but that's what it took. It took them to get locked up in jail.
Absolutely.
So they're not, some of them are learning different things. Now she's over in Henderson, Texas. Of course, she's saying the same thing. It's what you put into it, that she's not getting the help, they're not getting her counseling, so who knows?
Right.
You don't know. But you see it in the attitude. So you're still listening to the same music. You're still, having that same type of attitude. I'm wondering, well, maybe they do need that type of other counseling, and it's just not a facility where our city is paying them to take her to get cured, but it's just a money-making facility for them, and they're not really getting the right counseling. So who knows? And if we can do that here, we can keep them here, keep the money here, and find a way to get a lockdown facility, because eventually they will. I saw it happening when they sent her to Uvalde. Of course, she got into a situation over there with a guard, fired the guard, and sent her back here to county jail. So, there's just, it's a very complicated issue, it's from all social, economic, backgrounds, and what gets to me is that a lot of these people, men and women, when their parents don't give them any more money, when, they can't work for the money, then they sell themselves. So
Actually, I was fixing to touch that subject.
yeah.
On the fork with the 3 girls and a guy that was killed, that stems from drug abuse.
Yeah.
They have to sell their bodies.
Yeah.
That's what they.
When they get to that point, nobody will hire them. They're not reliable. Who's going to hire them? And so we can catch them early on, and I can almost detail the time when it happened. It happened after a rape. So I wasn't aware she was raped, when she was that young. But I think that's when you see a lot of that happening. And when you go, and then I switched her from San Agustin to United, then she started meeting people there where they were giving her, Louis Vuitton purses, giving money, and this isn't, when they're young, and so that's how they start. And then the judge says, hey, you better, because she was skipping, and so to go with this guy, and then they get him to go dance at private parties, and they have that back page, and they start getting, people like that involved with the rabbit hole. You go down like Alice in Wonderland, and you're lost. You don't know how deep you went in, So as her parent, you're just seeing her life just go chaotic, and me trying to help her, but she's an adult and it's up to her. And so I think that we need a lockdown facility here. You know, transition living after.
I wanted to make a point here. You know, the sheriff that mentioned the substance use. I want to point out substance use is really something of a problem, psychological nature. You know, and we have to treat them concurrently and aggressively. And one of my pet peeves, and I've had many arguments with HMR about the need to provide more comprehensive services. We do not have, we have but 2.5 private practitioners or psychiatrists in town. We're doing that telemedicine. We have the MHMR, but they have a priority population. The best program that I ever worked in was a federal probation program. I did it for 9 years. And federal probation paid for all the mental health counseling and all the psychiatric work and all the medication. The recidivism rate was very low. And they were getting better without treating the core issue, the co-occurring issue. They're not going to get better. We see so many people in drug court that need medications, but they don't qualify for services. They may have different things. You know, you're
diagnosis.
For example, you know, I don't know the situation with your daughter. She may have PTSD, but that's not a priority population at MHMR.
Things are changing now.
Unless they change.
Yes, sorry.
Okay, but
we no longer have the target priority populations, which before was bipolar, schizophrenia, major depressive disorder. Now it's going based on the assessment. So now more people would be able to qualify. And we also have licensed chemical dependency counselors on site and tobacco cessation as well, which treats the co-occurring disorder. So if they're clients, they would be able to be treated for all
and the personality disorders.
Yes.
Yeah, because we were sent today. She said, no, she has a drug problem. She's got to be treated.
Yeah, they would go back and forth.
So we were caught.
And we do have OSTAR on site as well.
Yeah, I know. I remember. I talked to Gracie about it.
Yeah.
Oh, Gracie's in my office. This idea.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm here for Gracie.
Stella, do you have any more questions? I'm sorry to
That's it,
interrupt.
sir, but we'll be in touch.
Thank you.
The commander,
Thank you for your service.
the captain will be here, and Miss Levin will be here also in case you have any
That's
questions.
wonderful. Thank you.
Sheriff. Thank you.
Thank you
All
for your
right.
help.
Thank you very much.
And we look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Okay, we go on to our last one. Next steps to develop a local detoxification and transitional rehabilitation center and any matter related to that. Well, that is, everyone has a stake in what's happening, everyone in here. But a matter of money is a major obstacle. And until we get to approach someone or ask someone to write a grant to help us with this, I foresee that this is going to be difficult to get the amount of money, and for all of the LVNs and RNs and everybody else, doctors and everybody else needed, it's going to be very expensive. And billed.
And medications, and you know.
And billed.
Well, I don't know. I talked to the Lamar Bruni Vergara, and I talked to also Lupe Martinez, and they were happy because I was telling them, there's nothing here. Can you help me do it? They said, well, just get your 501c3 and we'll help you, because there's nothing like that. So they're actually looking for something real and needed to help. So I don't know if those two could be considered.
Yes, we could apply to. They are very good in giving up money for good reasons.
For real needs.
Yeah.
And they saw the real need. I told them my story. They happened to come to our business, and they said, just do it and we'll do it. Just have a plan. And
The hospitals, who would we need to call? Who do I need to buzz or get on the phone? And
The CEOs and CFOs. I know one of them. I mean, that's who would come originally, and I can let them know.
Okay.
But so Chris, you might be more aware of it. I have not seen any monies from SAMHSA for detox at all, and
Right
so
now-
that's a stretch.
Yeah, SAMHSA
SAMHSA.
today finished passing the budget for for funding.
Right.
There will be some monies, and we know that if we pass it today, you're not going to see those RFAs for a year or two.
Exactly.
But they're targeting the money a little bit differently. They're targeting the money, besides the prevention monies, of course, they are going to put in money in the medical assisted therapy, which is where you get more. You can serve more people. You can
get more bang for your buck.
A lot more bang for your buck.
Exactly.
With medical assisted therapy. So they're looking at putting money there. They're going to ease the rules at the same time so that the nurse practitioners and the physician assistants will be able to prescribe the medications that now only certain physicians can prescribe.
Right, exactly.
So that's what's coming down the line for federal. As to for detox, they're going to put it in treatment, but not in detox. They're going to put it in outpatient and residential drug treatment, but they're not going to put it in detox because they are big on the medical assisted therapy, and they wholly believe that with medical assisted therapy, you can get a large percentage of your addicts to be able to function in a residential drug treatment, and then that the other ones need to be hospitalized.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think and I'm sure Isela and Chris, all of y'all are there. There's a lot of money for medical assisted treatment. And every time I look for a grant, especially for the drug court, veterans court, whether it was the city of Laredo, we have been using Vivitrol now for over 7 years, which is injectable naltrexone, and that works really well. And now Medicaid does take that. So that is really the way of the future. But, we're looking at wanting to do detox, but there probably won't be any monies available. I don't see it. The idea really is, okay, they will have some monies to do residential, but how do you do a detox? That has to be the community. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. The only way, and the ones that will bite in are the hospitals. They will always bite in and say, yes, we'll do it. But if the city and the county don't put anything into it, it's not going to happen. It's that simple. Because SCAN is doing all they can. They handle probably at least 7, 8, 9 grants that I know of. The city does what they can, Pillar does what they can, but it's still not enough. I mean, every single programs, I'm sure, runs at 100% capacity.
Yeah. And when you say that the hospitals will buy in, they're
going to save money because they're not in an emergency room.
But are they do they have a way to us actually?
The last time we had meetings, and I think Dr. Gonzalez was part of that group, the last group standing was the hospitals. Everybody else backed out. The county, the city, they backed out. The
Why?
County, because there was other priorities at that time. I mean, look back 6, 7, 8 years ago, whatever was going on in the city, whatever was going on in the county, there was other priorities. This has to be part of a budget that's annual in the city and the county. If not, we can be talking like this. I mean, how many times have we had this meeting? We've had it, years and years ago we had this meeting, and we're doing the same thing over and over and over again, and it's all talk and no action. Mm-hmm. And until the city and the county understand that they have to put their money in, and that it will help their community in many different ways to save money, then, it has to be annual. It can't just be, you have to find a budget for it, and the hospitals will buy in because it's going to save them money. Mm-hmm. And we will all get better, but you can't count on SAMS anymore, or Text DSHS, whatever they're called now, HHS. They're not going to give us some money for this. It's not the old days. And they're doing a lot of money. There's 800 million for medically assisted treatment that they put out.
Yeah.
And everything is now for co-occurring disorders. All the grants now, you have to treat co-occurring disorders. So it can't just be LCDCs, you have to have LPCs. Everything has changed in the landscape in the last 15 years.
When you say that the hospitals will buy in, they're willing to invest, or they're happy to get rid of the
Madam Chair and Council Member Viedma, first of all, Madam Chair, I think the Commission has to come out with a report and recommendations, and you've been in the fact-finding mode and done an excellent job. I think the step that you all have taken in updating what services are here and getting that out, it's a feather already. It's an accomplishment. But Jesse's right in that now everybody who is involved, from the commission members to the providers to the stakeholders, getting together to say, that's why your item of what are the next steps. And yes, it can't just be one entity. The city and the county is why we invited the judge's office. Have to be part of it. Yes, I've been in meetings with the mayor and with Jesse in the past with the hospitals where we already have two good vested CEOs who want to do community good. The first thing they're going to say, and I was just in a meeting with them talking about not the sexual assault, that's another issue, where they're saying we just don't want to be the only ones. We'll contribute. And I think they mean it.
It's a team effort.
But the county's got to buy in, and the city's got to buy in.
We have to go in the long term. If we're going to make a building, we can't, okay, at the next election, there's no more money.
No, one of the things that I know the mayor and I have discussed, but of course, and we need to know what the community will vote on that, is the what's it called, the medical districts. So it's a small percentage, but it's a tax, and that way it's all the time. It's going to have, the money's going to be there, and it's for treatment. So we will have to build the case of the evidence, the statistics, so that the community can be informed. And I know a lot of us have been affected by family members and friends. And so if we've reached this level of an epidemic, first of all, we need to educate the people. So at the time of voting for adding this medical district, then we will have the buy-in of the voters to be able to start, that funding, because that will be, continuous. We don't have to worry about, it's not a budget or the grant finished, and now how do we pay for the personnel? So that might be a long-term solution.
I think if you educate them and you show them that what's going on there on Saunders and San Bernardo with all the vagrants, with all the people walking around, I think a lot of the community would understand. And I think with the county, if you do your math and you do the liability of having 2 guards per inmate that have to go in there, the hospital bills that we have to pay, plus the liability when somebody dies on us, the lawsuits that come along with it, the traveling back and forth, the mileage going to San Antonio back and forth to give them the money so they can treat our community. I think if you put all that money together and show the voters.
I made a presentation to Judge Kehaney a number of years ago to show him how much just the use of Vivitrol saved the community. It was like about $565,000 over the 3-year period, and it saved the community in jail and different things. And so that is the way to the future. But and I am going to go and really ask the expert. I'll talk to Isela because I consider her the expert in this. Correct me if I'm wrong, Isela. The community builds a facility. A provider that has skills and knowledge sets it up and does medical detox. Eventually, we'll have it funded and we'll have some seed money. But won't a good provider be able to find a way to bill for different resources, from insurances to
the Medicaid is automatic.
Right.
You don't need the card for the vehicle for the Medicaid. So the good part is that, because we are a community with a large number of residents that are indigent, we would be able to qualify for the Medicaid and to be reimbursed.
And you the reimbursement, and then you have insurances. You could have contracts with different counties, like the counties that we're sending people to out of town. So you can have all that. So eventually, you have an extra pot of money. I remember Rick, our director of nursing, he would always joke with me. He goes, "You're like Mr. Drysdale. Every time you have a CHIP client comes in, he goes, your eyes would turn into dollar bills because we could make extra money with CHIP. They pay extra money. So I believe that if we have an initial investment and we have a sound entity that can manage it, they're going to be able to bring in some money, not just through Medicaid, but through insurance, through contracts. We had a lot of extra revenue, not only at the Laredo State Center, but at SCAN by contracting with different counties and different things. Because if you have it, people are going to come in, and it'll work. But it's a long process.
Well, and even write it into other grants, like, the drug court has a grant, and they could write in that, they would pay for
X amount of money.
X amount
Exactly,
for
yes.
detox, we ourselves could do it on some of our different grants. We could write it in that we would pay,
Sure.
Is there money also for veterans? Because you handle the
Veterans already have a lot of services.
they have their own insurance.
They have their own insurances, so on the Veterans Court program that the Judge Hale has, we have all in-house counselors. The doctors are from the VA. If we have them, if we need somewhere, we can send to all the VA clinics. So that's not as much of a problem as what we handle in the drug court. And where we do have a problem is, and this is, we have so many clients in the drug court program that have personality disorders, and they need long-term treatment. And we have a lot of clients with borderline that need to be on mood stabilizers, even though that's not the cure, but that will stabilize emotional dysregulation. We have such a need for all these different things, and
mental health is an issue.
but I really believe that if you got the seed money and you whatever agency or agencies, and this is a talk that we've had for years, that there's enough for all the agencies to come together and work together as one team, and I think it'll be successful. Whether you have SCAN and Pillar and WestCare, everybody can pull in the resources and get it done, because there's not going to be these grants that pull in this money. There's not. And maybe some local grants, but no, we have to look at the reality. It's got to be done here in the community.
And maybe we can look at some of the prototypes from what you were mentioning, the federal system. If we can start, looking at what they use.
They had a lot of money back then.
Well, I know, but as far as what you were mentioning also from Nueces County, because part of this is the reincarceration. I mean, we know that this is part of the root of the problem why we have such a big concentration of poverty, because you get out, you're in probation, you have to be employed, but if you don't have the skills and you have a criminal record, what job are you going to get? So your friends from the past come and ask you, and they offer you money, of course you're going to do it, and more so if you have a substance abuse issue. So if we can look at what Nueces County does to start the rehabilitation while they're in jail, because sometimes the prosecution might take months, but if we at least are giving this training and vocational skills, and trying to get them the skills, so when they come out, some people, let's say, we have also, I think the stats are not that well integrated, because we have people that might serve state time and then they go with the federals, and they have double convictions or concurrent record. But let's say, for example, they went to a jail or they have been to the penitentiary and they are welders. They were trained to be welders. But they come out and they don't know how to start their own business. So if we're able to empower them to be able to provide for their families, learn how to do that, I think Baylor has a program like that. Those are some of the things that we could, in the meantime, right? Like, we build something, let's start targeting what we have already in the jail. Let's learn from Nueces County, and then if we can tie those in with the DA's office, that those are going to be requirements, that they're going to take this class, and that's going to, I don't know, like make it an incentive. If they do this and that, they can reduce the time that they're there, just like the feds give you a year off for doing the substance abuse treatment, but we can tie it, make it part of their...
I can tell you one of the iterations that they had, and I completely forgot about this. There was one point in time that Staccato wanted to do one of these things, and they wanted to buy Dr. Pena's property. And I told him, no, don't buy Dr. He's been trying to sell it since 1988. Don't buy it. But they went and they hired a consultant from out of town. They were going to do this, and they were going to include a vocational program there. I mean, the plan looked nice, but I told the CEO, I said, this is really unfeasible. I said, it's not going to happen. Especially not in that facility. I said. And so that was one of the attempts to do a detox. I've talked to Mr. Lavoy a number of times, and he's got some good ideas. It's just a matter of all coming together and saying, let's go ahead and do something. But we do have some people that have to come up and say, yeah, we're going to pony this up.
Are there any other comments, please?
Just real quick, I honestly think it can become a round robin here if if the courts get involved, like Judge Hill and them, where they sentence them to actually have to go to the detox, to have to go to the rehab. Well, the community can get paid back after that if they also put part as a work program. Like, you're going to do 100 hours. So that wasn't given to them for free. They're going to work for it as well. And the community, you can put them in city parks, you can put them at the funeral, what do you call it, cemetery, at the Little League fields and all that. So the community gets something back from it. And if we can show the amount that they're going to save and the amount we're spending, I think it'll even out and balance out for the voters. Because I stand in the red lights there, especially on Saunders, and they're willing to give them money. I mean, they're the taxpayers putting money in that bucket for them to go get more drugs. So if we can give them that money, they can give us the money to
You know, I've actually bought them food and they refused it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
I had someone throw it in my face. I don't want food.
I was passing by, I think it's Meadow on Saturday, and I saw this man like walking with socks only, with the things from the bracelets from the hospital, and he was just, with his shorts, no belt, and it was falling down, and he had some cuts on his face, so he kept on walking, and I was like, I called PD, like, make sure what's happening, but I didn't follow up. Then today, as I'm driving to my office, they're welcoming Matt to Laredo, he was exposing himself, the same guy that I had seen like 2 or 3 days ago, so I called PD, and I'm like, I think he has some substance abuse or mental health issues, and they're out there, maybe they were being treated, and then he just fled, because it seemed like he was running. But I know that it was something.
I think the good thing is that I believe that, at least because that's the homeless population, I believe that SCAN just got funded for 5 years for homeless, right? Is that right? So we've got some money there to take care of that we did not have in the community before.
Yes. I also committed, last year's the budget from CDBG, there was like 400 or 440,000. I committed that for a transitional housing unit, which is going to be, I forget the address, I don't remember the address, but it's in conjunction with the Laredo Housing Authority. So it's 9 apartments. And so what we also have the problem with Bethany, we have families and then we have the males, and so we wanted to try to have that separation, and hopefully this will work for that, and part of the transition program.
And for us at the jail, when some of them come with mental health issues, like you mentioned, Consul, we had a few officers that get assaulted by them. And what do? Do we add the charges? We know that jail's not for them. They need to be somewhere in the hospital. They need help. So if I add the charges to them, they're gonna stay more there in jail. Yeah. And when I had I've lost officers for a few weeks, even months, or to injury. Mm-hmm. They threw feces at us, urine, get slapped, bitten. Mm-hmm. So people with mental health, jail's not for them.
Well, I can tell you what is going to help you in the future. Because SCAN just got the mental health awareness treatment grant where they're going to go out and I believe that their charge will be to go ahead and train police officers, first responders to deal with mental health issues and then form a crisis team. That's about right?
Yeah, intervention.
Yeah, and Henry and I were just talking about that 2 weeks ago. Yeah. So I think that's going to be a big help because I have unfortunately lost clients to some things because they were not understood to have a mental illness, and it's a shame because you all have to protect yourselves, and you don't know what's going on, and
we gotta go home to
yes, you have to go home to your family. So but it's hard to make those decisions, and so
good second decisions. I applaud all of y'all for this. This is something that, like I said, on Monday morning I was already dealing with this. I was talking about this. We need something.
Madam Chair, I was your approval to ask the stakeholders again if, I know that Jesse just mentioned SCAN has 2 new grants. Are they in the directory, if not to update it? Because the directory is being used by the public and by agencies, so we wanted to have the most updated information because that's critical.
Yeah,
last time, right?
And Pillar also has a new grant target capacity expansion for HIV, which we had been missing for a number of years, but this will be the third time around in the community. I know we have it.
Is
So
that in the directory?
it just got funded.
Okay.
It just got funded. So
Right,
it's
the one last time was last month, and she added it to it.
yeah. So this is the two new ones that I know that got funded are ESOLA's mental health awareness treatment and the target capacity expansion HIV. Those are those two that I think those are the final ones that I saw on the list.
And on the mental health crisis team, I know that the commander and I had discussed that before. What model or how far out would that be? I know we had looked at Houston and El Paso.
The person that is going to be the instructor for the program is Sandy Contreras, and she's got a doctorate in professional counseling. Right now, she's in Dallas getting trained. So she'll complete the training this week, and then we'll start moving out to offer the services. First, we have to get the first responders trained, and then we're going to, from them, we need to pull the crisis team together because it's totally volunteer basis. So that's going to be our process for it. So as soon as Sandy comes back, probably the latter part of this month, we'll start reaching out to different agencies, offering the trainings, and then we'll pull together the crisis team. There's always, people that are very interested in being, part of the crisis team. We've already, and even within our agency, we've got some staff that are LPC counselors that are ready, to be part of it. So I'm hoping we can get some from law enforcement, from the fire department, from the sheriff's office to be part of the team. And then, like I said, it's a comprehensive training they're going to have to go through. So that's the other thing. We're going to have to work with law enforcement because they are going to have to spare their staff to go through the training that we'll be providing. And we can accommodate all the different agencies. We have to do early in the morning, just 2 or 3 hours, or late in the evenings, and split it over weeks. We'll do it. But hopefully we can get staff trained so that that are first responders, so they're more aware of the mental health issues and how to work with these individuals and not to trigger them and make the situation worse, but to intervene and calm the situation down.
Would we be able to assist maybe with the PAC to record the trainings, and that way it's accessible to the different shifts and kind of like a webinar that they can...
It can be. The only thing is they're going to have to go through the whole training and get certified. It has a certification process. It's an evidence-based practice. So, and that's why we're having one instructor trained right now, one person that will be training in the community. And this will be going on for the next 3 years. It's a 3-year grant. So that's basically what she will be doing. We'll be training and putting crisis teams together. Like the sheriff's department might want to have their own crisis team just in the jail. And they might want to have one crisis team per shift. That's fine. We'll work to what meets their needs. The police department might want to set it up a little bit different. They might just want the police officers that, let's say, work on the weekends and the night shift. They deal more with these situations. We'll assist them in putting their crisis team. The same way with the EMT from the fire department. We'll work with them also and see how they want to put their crisis teams together.
And if I may suggest, if we can also include maybe students in the field from TAMU and LC that might, start training the next generation.
Definitely.
And if I can add to that, so we can work together. Taylor, along with the University of Texas Health Science Center in San Antonio, have also received funds to do similar work, and so we can all come together and carry out those services.
That's wonderful. Well, that's wonderful. That includes number 5, staff and stakeholder updates. People have been giving us their information and what they can do to help. Do we have any announcements from anyone?
We have the domestic violence conference tomorrow, and we make sure to include a post-traumatic stress disorder specialist, especially for first responders. So there's a lot of good speakers. It's tomorrow from 8 to 5 at 10.
And Madam Chair, I don't know if commission members have any other final comments or questions, and certainly from our newest member, if he has any comments.
You know, the only thing that was pending was the online certification.
Yes, and we'll work with on that. Nobody open meetings. Let's go through it.
And from you, the captain, if any of y'all want to go by the jail and take a little tour to see firsthand, you'll be under our protection. Take a little tour to see what's going on.
You're all more than welcome to come see.
Thank you, Noel.
That part of the Scared Straight program. Well, we do have tours for kids. Yeah, we have tours.
We have good tours and bad tours.
Yeah, we have good tours and bad tours, and sometimes we get like 10 that they're going through problems at schools, and we took them out straight. Out of let's say there's 10, if one makes it, I won.
Yeah, definitely.
I won. If not, I'll see you soon. That's what I done.
Job security.
Job security. And believe me, me and the commander have been through several tours, and I'll tell them I'll see you soon. Sure enough. How old are you? 16. Next year. Once you're 17, you're an adult, and sure enough, I see them there, and they start crying. I told you that.
And that's one of the first areas of intervention, because when they go to visit, it's the saddest thing, like for me as an attorney, like to see all the line of cases waiting to go see their parents, and I do have one of my siblings that is serving time, so that it's very hard on the family as well. But part of that, he's, I started a nonprofit because of his ideas, because he's thinking from the inside out, how can we help? And it goes a lot with what Pilar, you're mentioning. The nonprofit is don't give up. So it's about vocational, it's about training, it's about breaking the cycle, it's about intervention with the kids. One of the ideas was to have a bus or a double decker and give training to the parents, because it's usually the stats that we're getting of the single moms, a lot of it has to do with this, so that the parents can learn how to, model the behavior, their expectations for the kids, or financial, education.
Spirituality as well.
Yes, spirituality, family counseling, and then for the kids also to, teach them about dignity, resiliency skills, and education. So those are some of the possible projects we can do. There's a lot for us.
Yes, it's starting to feel overwhelming.
That's good. I like this.
But yes, there's lots of good ideas, or lots of things that are already happening, and Dr. Gonzalez and I have been whispering that he's going to put something together from everything we heard today, and we will present it to the board. Yes, we have someone else back there.
Yes, sorry, my name is Ricardo Hinojosa. I'm here on behalf of Anya Arista with West here.
Okay, yes.
And I guess, I'm sorry, pardon me for, I think I passed up the staff and stakeholder updates. And there were some things that he did want me to share with you. In regards to the directory, we had 3 interns from UTRGV last semester, and they updated the directory. And then we now have 2 master level interns that are going to do the second part of that directory. That's going to include the detox and rehabilitation facilities that Laredo has been working with in the area, like from the Valley to Corpus to San Antonio. And they're going to focus on cost. Like, what does it cost? What is that facility charging Medicaid or private insurance, or what is their cost? And also, what cost is it costing the community, or in state monies, or just to transport these individuals to these places? So they're going to be working on that part of the directory, the second part of that directory on that. And then the other information that he wanted me to share. And so he's going to try to have this prepared for the next meeting.
Great.
So he does have the original proposal for the triage center when they were at the table. He does have that. He is going to be working on he's going to be modifying and updating, like say, the budget, because back then the cost was probably a whole lot less than what it is now. So there's going to be some updates that he's going to be doing to the proposal for that triage center. And so he's going to try to present that. He's going to have that for the next meeting also.
That's good.
as
So
well.
we have something, a blueprint, something. Don't start from ground one, down at the bottom.
Right.
Let's not reinvent the wheel. And we really appreciate Mr. Adic's help.
Yeah,
and the
he
interns.
also, yes, absolutely.
They did a lot of
Huge
work
help.
this past
Huge
summer.
help. I think we do have them for 500 hours each, so we'll be utilizing that time for them. But he also did mention to let the commission know that that West Care is willing to come to the table and do what needs to be done to bring this to fruition.
Thank you very much.
I actually forgot to mention, other than the hospital, West Care was the last one. They were the last ones on the table at the very end. They were we were there in the last meetings, and that was it.
Well, let's hope that we can get this done before our next election. Yes.
Real quick, if I may, I was just curious, Jesse, you're the one who, I guess, who was running the last medical detox in the city.
Well, I think that's, you got to look at it. You're talking about, there's a difference between the adolescent detox. That's I didn't really bring it up. Other than that SCAN had it, and that was the only one that the state has ever had. I wanted to focus on the history of the adult detox, which is what we're really talking about. So, all I can tell you from the adolescent detox is that it costs a lot of money, and we barely made it. We barely broke even, right? And that was with a lot of support from Henry Cuella and with different contracts that SCAN was able to get. But there's certain things that always have to be done. You got to have doctors, and you have to get medical protocols. You have to have the nurses and all that. But no, I was talking more about the history of the adults. I shied away from the adolescent stuff because that really is totally different. It was part of a residential treatment program that we needed to have a detox. We went out to the state. We went out back then. Isela, Luis, and I to the Commission on Alcohol and Drug Abuse, and told them, that Laredo had the highest rate of adolescent heroin users in the state of Texas, based on the data that we were getting. So, when I left the SCAN back in 2002, that was a statistic, and we had those problems. We had to testify, and then Henry put a rider on a bill that forced the detox to be built. All right, and we were fortunate enough that we were able to keep it running up until he moved along. But I didn't mention that because that really doesn't go with this. The idea is, yes, you have to have doctors and nurses. I know how many nurses we had at the Deer unit. I know how many nurses we had over here. I did the research to know how many nurses had to be done for this project when we did the original triage and that. But I don't think anything about the adolescent detox is really relevant. Right? It's not relevant. It's not relevant.
It was the adult detox.
It's the adult detox.
I think it's
the adult detox, and it was already a social detox. So
they had already changed, Jesse. Remember, they started a social detox, and then the Takata stopped funding social detox. Remember, they had to change to medical detox.
And then they lost grant.
But they were already closing because they weren't financially making it well. Remember, we were forced to go into unit rates.
Yes.
For cost reimbursement. Once the switch was made from the cost reimbursement to the unit rate, and they were over at St. Joseph's, remember, on McPherson? Yeah. They couldn't make it. Yeah. They had only 10 beds.
Oh yeah, that's right. They did the St. Joseph's one over there. Yes. I forgot. That was with Lalo. With Lalo. That was the other detox program, and it didn't make it. But
it didn't make it. That was a medical detox model.
Yeah, they did the medical detox model after that, and then they forgot to turn in the grant.
And then they forgot, but they were already.
Yeah, so they weren't making it because there was people. You're right, Isabel. There was people that we had the beds, and people would go out of town.
Yeah, they were.
That's always a problem, and And there's a lot of us here that, people that are in private practice, I said, they wonder, you guys have been here for a long time. They come into my office and go, wow, you have a psychiatrist here? You have this? Yeah, we've been here. We don't advertise, but, and so there's a lot of services that are underutilized. And so, yes, I did forget that little piece of history where Lalo had his place, St. Joseph's it was called. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, I forgot about that. Yeah, so we had a number of iterations.
That was the end.
That was the end, 2004, and then the last thing I knew, they didn't turn in a grant, and it just completely. Yeah, that was it.
Well, I was curious. You may not know this answer to the dot, but a ballpark figure: how many? What kind of facility? Medical lockdown facility, lockdown whole and part. How many beds will we need to be available to have 1 or 2 beds still vacant when you're at full capacity? I mean, what are we talking about? What size of detox?
I can't answer that. I can let you know what I presented different things to the county commissioners, and I said, look, this one will cost you $500,000. This will cost you $750,000. This will cost you $1 million. Ideally, I wanted the $1 million. They kind of wanted the $500,000 one, right? And I thought we could get to the $1 million if everybody pulled their resources together, right? But that was for 16 days.
Basically, we start with 12.
Yeah, you start with 12.
The way the standards are, you need to start with 12 beds because that's the most effective because you're going to have the same amount of staffing whether you have 12 or you have 40. Yeah. So when it comes to having the doctor as the medical director, having a physician assistant or a nurse practitioner that's going to be able to go and do admissions and having your RN. So you're going to have to find a number between 12 and 30 or 40 or whatever number,
So I think
the needs of the community are.
We were going based on the size of what they were looking at.
Mm-hmm.
And so the one size was 12, one size was 16, one size was 20. They wanted to maximize it. I said, well, let's go for whatever we can if we can get this facility, because at that time I thought the county was going to refurbish the facility. Now we're looking at 10 years later. I don't think it can be refurbished. You've been there, Pete. There's no way it can be refurbished. Maybe 10 years ago, but not now. And so I was thinking, okay, well, can we do this? 20 people fit if you want to spend this much money. But he said, right, at a certain point in time, you have to look for your staffing patterns because then you're paying more. But when I'm talking about the seven nurses, I'm talking about like 12 with 12 clients. When I'm talking about the staffing that I gave you, the 4 full-time LVNs, the 3 LVNs, the nurse and the doctor. I'm talking about 12, which is at the end what the county thought was best. Right, but even then, I think it's a stretch to do it where the county had talked about doing it. There's no way, I think that place will fall apart. Yeah. I mean, well, it could be done, but everything's made out of concrete. Right. It'd be very expensive just to
have windows in
just to knock it down. You could build a building just with knocking it down, replacing, and then there's an air conditioned unit that God knows how much it will cost to fix. It's not worthy anymore. It's been used for storage for years.
Oh, why did you not think that the location over there that Mr. Peña has is not available to knock it down and start?
Okay, number one, it was it was all glass. Mm-hmm. So you're going to have clients. It was a beautiful place. Mm-hmm. It's a beautiful place, but it's right there on the river. There's glass and there's windows and it's a mansion. You're not going to put kids or adults in that kind of facility. It's not going to work. The scan is the one that has blueprints to how to do things. Right. I mean, I've seen it. So there are blueprints to how to get it done, but that facility wouldn't have made it.
No, it was a blank piece of land.
No, it wasn't. It had a mansion, and it had a pool house, and it had all these different places, plus the places that he would rent to all of the people that needed things. But it's a beautiful piece of land. But no, he'd been trying to sell that since 1988. He tried to sell it to Dolores Rodriguez at HMR for the facility that I ran, the Inhaled Abuse Program. It wouldn't have lasted.
No, not on glass.
No, not
No,
way.
then there's a cliff there.
There's a cliff there. There's a cliff. There's a cliff there, and you know.
It's not
Oh no.
Yeah.
No, not a place. Not the place.
Commander Ponce, at any given time, how many people are in y'all's lockdown detox area?
No, weekends we go up between 16 to 20.
Yeah.
Anywhere between that on the weekends. As they either bond out or they finish up. During the week, we're averaging around 8 to 12, somewhere around there during the week.
You said 7 days at minimum they got to stay down?
Yes, sir.
They got some stay 5. It all depends on medical. Some stay 5, but on the average now we've been seeing about 7 days because if you put them up in between 5 and that 7th, sometimes they start having problems upstairs.
So we had a detox center and say it was full. How long would our people be there?
It would be typically 3 or 4 days of detox.
Okay.
3 days of crisis stabilization, where they're being stabilized, right? And then you would move out. So when we were getting the numbers of how many people could be seen a year, and we said, well, if we have 12 beds or 16 beds or 20, here are the numbers. You just multiply it.
Right.
But yeah, because it depends on also the substance that they're using.
Right.
You know what they're using, and so you're looking at a total of 6 to 7 days, including the detox, including the stabilization. Right, and
But the waiting list wouldn't be something like an inpatient where you're waiting months for a bed or something like that.
Well, you know what? It could be because we have so many people who need it.
Okay.
We can hardly get in Charlie's place. We can hardly get a bed.
Right.
You know that we can't get a bed because they're going to see specialized females first. They're going to see IV heroin users. So then you have someone that has a serious cocaine addiction. They're not going to get in, or an alcoholic. You know, and so it's very difficult.
Our SAPs, the ones that get assigned to SAP to go out to the valley or wherever they go, or to San Diego, they're normally there 3 months before they get a bed.
Yeah.
And we've had people in custody, a month, waiting to go to Sanidad.
Yeah. What we do is, like, for example, we have make a lot of referrals as far as in the drug court. When I say we, working in the drug court, we make a lot of referrals to Sanidad. At the same time, we would work with them to see if they wanted the Vivitrol shot.
Right.
And then we get them on the Vivitrol shot. If they got better, then, we could use the bed for somebody else. But we typically, I know that they make a lot of referrals over there to Sanidad. But we would use the Vivitrol shot for those that really wanted it. Those that qualify, because if their liver is compromised, you can't get the shot.
Okay. But I just wanted to add that because I do work with we house the homeless, chronically homeless. They come with mental health issues. They come with drug substance abuse, and I have that problem. Exactly what you said. It takes like 2 to 3 weeks just to get them to detox. It takes probably another 2 months. But this is like everywhere. I've called everywhere. Lifetime Recovery, San Antonio, down to the valley, Charlie's place. It's chronic everywhere. So they'll get deep. This is the problem I see with our participants, just those that I work with. They go into detox, but then there's not a bed available for them. So they come back. They spit them back out at us. So between that gap of detox and rehab, they'll relapse.
They're using it again.
And it's like and so there they go back. It's like a revolving door. Right now, like with 3 or 4 of them, they're just going in and out, and even then they have to wait like 2 to 3 weeks for another detox.
Well, the reality is the only detox that's going on is in jail, and somebody's not going to need a detox 3 months later. So we don't have the detox, we don't have the residential facilities, and that has to be what's worked on.
What we're working on. Yes, that's what we're trying to do. You had a question?
Well, I'm just trying to figure out how big facility that we would need to recommend to the city and the county and the hospitals and everything. And what I'm theorizing here is, if we had a facility of 24 beds, I know that the cost is probably outrageous, but I'm not thinking about that right now. I'm just curious, if we had a facility of 24 beds, Commander Ponce, if that was our detox center, then I'm guessing we wouldn't have your observation area full of these detox individuals. Is that true?
Our observation at the gym?
Right.
Yeah. No, well, the sad part about this is they committed a crime to come in.
Right.
So how would you house them at a rehab facility out there? If they committed a crime. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Which brings me to my next question. Okay, so you've got all these officers, they have to go to the hospital to watch people.
Yes.
And you have officers that are watching these detox individuals closely. Do you think it would be something the jail would be interested in to? And you even have an officer at the at PCP right now too, guarding the door. I'm assuming, right?
Yeah. There's an officer there stationed at the.
Oh, in Chicago and what is?
Yeah.
Yes.
If this detox center took that potential liability off of your hands, or at least lessened it, do you think that the sheriff might be interested in donating some soldiers or some deputies to watch this place and make it a lockdown facility, at least in whole or in part? Since that way it would alleviate the need to send these deputies to babysit at the hospital, it would alleviate the need, and you may even have, I guess it would alleviate definitely that need.
It alleviate the workload so they can concentrate on others, because we still got to meet the state ratio of 1 to 48.
Right.
So we can't just grab that officer and say, hey, we don't got the detox, let's put them over here. We still got to meet the whole facility, the population.
Right.
But it would alleviate the liability of one dying on us, or getting seriously injured, or an officer getting injured. Yes,
Well, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, so I don't know if we're talking about two different things, a detox and a lockdown. You can't have both.
No, jails can have their own lockdown, because they do. I know several county jails that have like a detox within their facilities. That they contract with outsiders to actually come in and help them provide, the services, get them through those crisis stabilization and treatment. The models are what gets licensed in Texas for nonprofit agencies and governmental entities would have to be a non-lockdown. Voluntary,
non-lockdown.
And not
that's the only way it can be.
Or court order.
It can't be. It can be court ordered.
And they can still leave.
But the minute the person says, I want out.
Then they violated their probation and they go back.
And they go back,
But that is the reality of how we have to run them. It's the same thing with residential drug treatment and setting that. They can be court ordered, but when they say they want to leave, we tell them, we're going to call probation and report you.
You can't be chasing them out on the streets, if they want to leave, then you're putting your own staff in danger. So, we're talking about two different things, and we have to clarify that. This detox is different than what would happen in a lockdown facility.
Because lockdowns have criminal charges, and you have to hold them until they bond out.
Yeah, so this is
and on your question, for sure, I mean, if the facility gets built, for sure you're going to need security, because, they're at the jail, they're detoxing, but, some may be locked to other gang members. And we know that we can't mix them together. So that's gonna be another issue that for sure you're gonna need security.
Okay, but I think Paul, I think the thing that does need to be clarified is that my thought was we're looking to do a detox in the community, which is exactly where a nonprofit or a group of nonprofits run it that could be licensed by JACO or CAR, that would be done where everybody comes in voluntarily. We can't have a lockdown. We would, that's a whole different story, and you have to choose. What are we going to do? Well, I think the community benefits more from having a detox program, a medical detox program. However many beds we have, I know that if we did it the right way, it could be successful. But that's a whole different story. We can't have a lockdown like
We
that.
couldn't even have like a partial type of lockdown then.
Not for what we want to do for the community.
So we
That's
have
a whole
to have like a private lockdown facility?
That's called a jail.
I have some information to share, and I'm sure that Mr. Arista probably would have shared it had he been here. I don't know if you're aware, but our facility is changing locations. Our participants have already moved. So the only offices that are left is just Jaime's and myself. So we're still there, we're waiting for corporate to move us, but however, he has had conversations with Catholic Charities upon leasing this building, and that building is set up as single room occupancy facilities. So that it really would be worth considering as a possible site for a detox, because they have, with just some minor upgrades like camera installations, they have offices there already. They have two, maybe like duplexes. It's like, but it's like 2 bedrooms, so it's really like 4 bedrooms are for like on 24-hour staff or something that they could use.
And it's all one story.
It's all,
right?
no, there's 2 stories.
2 stories?
The main building is 2 stories. So like the bottom could be administrative, the top could be the clinical.
Does it have an elevator?
That would be maybe an upgrade that maybe needed to be put in.
Well, the
But,
thing is, the model
be
for detox is more of an open area,
Yeah,
more like the old idea of hospital wards.
Yeah,
because you got to be able to watch them and respond immediately, because a lot of them can't even cry out. All of a sudden, you got them, they'll seize on you. So the model that we used when we did the adolescents, and it was that you have to have them in an open area. So let's say you do 12, you will move some on. Once you've got them stabilized after the first 3 days, they can move on into semi-private rooms. But the first 3 days, you have to keep them where you're able to observe them at all times.
The nurses
did offer, just to keep us from moving, they did offer some renovations that needed to be done. So if there was an open area needed, that would be something that would probably consider.
You mentioned it last time.
We have the available, thank you.
11,500 rent, showers, kitchen.
Right.
You mentioned all of this.
and that might be all well and good for residential, but what he's talking about, and I guess that's the one thing, there was a nurse's station at the adolescent detox, and in most detoxes you have this open area. The nurse's station has a plexiglass window that you can look into the open area, see what's going on. The nurses are there, able to handle it. When we were talking about what we were going to do with the county, that's the way it was going to be designed. That's how come we were talking about knocking down walls, because we had to create an open area where the nurses could just look at everything. And so we're talking about knocking down every single one of those walls so we could create that open space. And so that would be the type of operation. You can't do it in a hospital setting just like with a closed room.
Not in a private.
No, you can't do it.
Have to be like kind of like a jail dorm for watching 48.
That's what we have. We have them where we can see, up to 30 some of them are in there.
Jesse, with this detox center, would it be possible for an officer to bring someone who's under arrest to the jail, and then maybe perhaps the jail says, no, he's too intoxicated, we can take this person to the detox center and let them be there with the understanding that if they leave, then the jail would be closed?
Well, I think that was the idea that the jail had. The idea was to triage somebody. The police would bring them in. If somebody was ready to go out, or they hadn't really committed a crime because, let's say, they were homeless or just, intoxicated, after they were stabilized, they would leave. Those that were arrested, if they weren't violent offenders, then they would stay, and they'd be magistrated or something, whatever, and they would stay there. That was the idea that Judge Hale had, right? Back when we were working on it. But yes, that would alleviate some of the problem, but they still have to agree to stay there voluntarily, and then they'd go. They can leave. So it's a whole different.
That's where the officer would come in, and we could actually say we need an officer there, because anybody is fixing to take off. That's when the officer would say, okay, you know what, you're under arrest. We're going.
So you still have a voluntary facility, but you have an officer there for those people that are magistrated. But that was the idea of doing that triage, and that was back then.
And then let's say we have some participants in DCP. if Judge Hale ordered them to go to the detox for 3 days and detox versus ordering them into the jail, he could still do that, or is that not
It's
possible?
like, you know how slow it works. You know, they're detoxing already over here. By the time they get ordered to go to detox, they're not going to need detox. You know, I mean, you know, the idea is, you know, we have people waiting there to go to residential treatment. You know, sometimes a month, 2 months, 4 months, whatever. Yeah, I mean, you know, now I think the county has an extra judge that can magistrate, right? I've heard about one. So, I mean, they could do something like that, but, you know, that's in the future. The first thing is you all need to decide what it's going to be, where it's going to be, how it's going to be, and then, you know, we go from there. Those are things that we can figure out, you know, later. But yeah, let's see. Okay, well, we got to make sure. Okay, this is a detox for the community. It's not going to be a lockdown, and it is going to be a medical unit. And this is what it's going to need. We're going to start off with 12, 20, 40. We can't do 40, obviously, but we can start off with a small number, you know, and see how successful it is, and then build from that. When we started the ISIS program at SCAN, we started with 10 beds. We ended up with 30 at the very end, plus a specialized female program with 14 more beds because the need was so great. So it just kept on growing and growing. But you have to have an agency that runs it correctly.
Is it possible to have, I think Bexar County does it, and I want to say Charter Hospital used to do it back in the day, where you have a wing of voluntary people, and over here a separate wing that's a lockdown. That's secured with officers, and that's there.
I think we just need a lockdown. There's no way.
Yeah, because, I mean, the way I see it, if PD arrests them and it's a violent offense, they can't run the facility. They're going to have to come to jail. Because then you're going to put the facility in jeopardy, the nurses, and just alone, I mean, us there, we have close to 40 to 50 officers working a shift. And I'm talking not on the floors, everywhere, administration. At a city, if you have 12 bodies there, you got at least 4 officers there. Because when we respond to a fight or something, an emergency, I mean, we try to get everybody there.
Yeah.
Because I mean, 12 against 4 of us we're still going to be under.
So, well, I understand. I've been.
Yeah, but I just don't know if we can actually, like, you have the wing for the private sector and then a separate wing for the lockdown. That one's made out of concrete to the jail standards, and it holds the amount of officers for the amount of beds.
But those would only be for inmates.
Those would be for inmates, exactly.
Well, I think that's what I was thinking about.
That's what we need.
That's what we need. Right.
And I was just curious, Commander Ponce, you know, the jail, the sheriff's office at one time proposed this new jail to be built or what have you. Do you think if we had a detox center, if we built a detox center, number one, do you think that I guess could be built in a similar place, and maybe could be built in a way that perhaps a jail could be added onto it in the future, or is that just? I'm just curious.
It's possible. I mean, with the land, the way we had projected it, at the rates that we had now, it was so it can be usable for the next generation. We're just going to add pods after that. So as the population of Laredo grew, a pod would be added. They wouldn't carry the burden of the 100-something million no more. They'd carry the burden of that one pod only.
So if we were going to experiment and have a detox center, as long as we built it in such a way, even if it failed, it could still just be the first pod of a new jail. Is that a possibility?
Yeah, that's a big possibility if you have the right amount of land and in the right geographic. Our idea was to get it out of the city and to get it out of the population. We were trying to go out there and where it wouldn't be around the citizens. So if you put something out there, I mean, it'll be usable, especially by us. And just us alone. If y'all don't want to use it, probably we'll use it.
Yeah, I going back and really thinking about it, is, I think that it's fair to say that you all need to have a detox, and it needs to be a lockdown. And I think that it's fair to say that you all could do something if you're doing a new jail. But that doesn't take away from the community needs to do something, a nonprofit. So, let the jail part be the jail part, and, everybody can get together and figure out how it's going to be funded. But, it doesn't, I don't like the idea of mixing populations, even though some of them are going to be the same people. But, we have a detox facility for the community, and it's licensed, and it's, it's freestanding, and it's open. Then that's the way it ought to be. And then we need to do something for the jail to alleviate what they need, so that we don't have the crisis that the sheriff was talking about. So I understand the need for a lockdown facility, but we need a detox facility.
Madam Chair, in the interest of time, we'll put this together, the two models, and Jesse, I think, with his last statement clarifies that it is two issues. And one of the things you all wanted the commission is within the jail, that's your lockdown, are you having services? Yes. I think the urgency, agreeing with Jesse, is the community detox, because there's nowhere else to go for that, and support the programs that are here, and that's that's part of the task for you all to evaluate what's there and how do we keep supporting and how do we fill the gap. So we'll pull this, Madam Chair, together, give you some sample. We have previously sent some. So we've got to do is write this already formulas. They're pretty standard for the different bed units. 12 bed is kind of the standard for the least amount. And we sent that to you. We'll send it again. We'll round up some of the discussion so you all can begin to evaluate and start looking at your recommendations.
Read through it and everybody have a recommendation and we come back next month.
That works.
That works. Okay, well, then, meeting adjourned. Oh, thank you. First, second, thank people who started it. Thank you, everybody. Take care. Thank you.